Hey guys, welcome to JReviews. I'm Iceman and the game covered today is Dune 2000. Dune 2000 was developed by Intelligent Games and released in 1999 by Westwood Studios. The game is a remake of sorts of the 1992 game Dune 2, but is very different in many respects which I'll go into later. It, however, set many benchmarks in how to do a successful remake, as it is night and day superior to the original in many aspects, such as the introduction of full motion video segments with known actors of the time, superior graphics and UI, as well as vastly better controls. The background story to the game is that the Emperor of the Galaxy, Emperor Corino, has issued a challenge that the house which can produce the most spice will gain control of the planet Arrakis, better known as Dune, from spice that is found only on that planet. All the while, Lady Alara of the Ben Gesserit and bound concubine of the Emperor secretly takes the commander, who is the player, into one of the ships to tell her of her visions. One of which was a vision of them rising to control massive armies and bringing peace to Arrakis. You then go forth to select which house you will play as, each playing out quite differently. To give a brief rundown on the various houses, you have House Atreides. If there was a good or noble faction in the game, then House Atreides is it. A rich and powerful faction who wishes to ally with the native Fremen forces. Their Mentat is Noré Monio and was in the game played by John Rhys Davies, who I knew at the time from the awesome TV show Sliders, and who later starred in the Lord of the Rings movies. House Atreides makes for a powerful faction to play as, with aerial attacks as their superpower and sonic tanks at their disposal. House Harkonnen is next up. If you're looking for a bad guy faction to play as, then House Harkonnen is the one to play as. They are easily the most powerful of the three factions, with access to Devastator tanks as their unique attack unit and Death Hand missiles as their superpower. Their Mentat is Hate de Vries, played by Robert Curran. This is a really fun house to play as. Last up is House Ordos. Easily the weakest of the three houses and the most challenging. House Ordos is more of a mercenary or merchant style faction, with the worst of the special units with the Deviator tank being unique to them, though they do have access to Saboteur units which are quite useful and one of the few stealth units in the game. Their Mentat is Edric Zero, played by Richard Marcus. Overall, the Ordos are a more challenging house to play as, due to not having any majorly good unique units to them, and the Deviator tank is only of limited use. In either case, the ultimate goal of the game, regardless of which house you select, is the complete conquering of the planet. Narrative to the game is told through a mixture of full motion video segments and text briefings of your goal for each mission. I'll go more into discussing the FMV later, but they were really well done with this game. Even the text briefings had a unique style to them based on which house you selected. The feel to the game is very much in line with other RTS games of the 90s, with the harvesting of resources, building up of bases, bringing a force together, and annihilating your enemies being core to the overall gameplay experience. Obviously, being a Westwood Studios game, it has a lot in common game feel wise with the Command & Conquer games in particular, especially when you factor in how the game's user interface looks. So if you've played any of the Command & Conquer games, then you should feel right at home with this one. Unique to this game, however, is firstly with the desert appearance of the levels, being only able to place buildings on soil, and preferably concrete, the harvesting of spice, and of the gigantic sandworms which gobble up your vehicles if you're not careful. On the subject of graphics, graphics were superb for the time and even nowadays look pretty good, though obviously the FMV sequences have aged quite a bit and are an acquired taste. But I would say that the game stands up quite well even in 2023. Now onto the full motion video segments, or FMVs. Every mission in Dune 2000 starts with an FMV sequence, featuring a quick briefing by the Mentat of your house on what you need to achieve, as well as other FMVs featuring other characters in the game's plot. These are all top-notch stuff for the time, If you're looking for a game with great FMV, then this is one to check out. The FMV sequences for the Harkonnen faction in particular are really damn good. They make playing as the bad guys even better, with a devilish style to them. Overall, I absolutely love the FMV in this game. It's great stuff. They did a great job with this game. Music in the game is pretty good, though nothing particularly memorable. The majority were modern remixes of tunes from the earlier 1992 game. They're all quite good, and I'm sure many really like them, but for me there was nothing particularly catchy in there. Nothing bad either though. Now onto gameplay. The gameplay of Dune 2000 is essentially the same as any other RTS game of the 90s. Your goal for the majority of the missions is in the complete annihilation of your opponents, with how you go about that being in setting up a base, harvesting spice, which is the sole resource type in the game, and using the resources gained to both expand your base and to build up base defenses, as well as build up an attack force. Once you have enough of an attack force, go out and take out your opponent. And that's essentially what it boils down to. Unique to the Dune games is the limiting of placement for buildings to only on soil and not sand, and that the laying of concrete is majorly beneficial before placement of buildings onto them, otherwise they will suffer damage over time. Sandworms are another unique aspect, who roam under the sand sections of the map and will devour any vehicle which happens to drive over them. In the early sections of the game, it is best to stay clear of these, or to only send infantry units after them, since they don't attack infantry units. They can be defeated for a short while, but always come back after some time. Neutral factions are another aspect of the game and often just stick to themselves, but can be forced to work with you or be taken over by your engineers. Some maps also feature allied factions and are best protected to ensure that they continue to pump out supporting units, which can greatly aid in your chances of success. Starports are highly useful and act as a faster method of gaining a lot of units at a fast rate, but at the price of higher costs. So if you have a lot of resources, then these can be highly useful in building up an attack force quickly. However, they only stack a certain amount of units at a time and are slow to build up more stock. Carryalls are another unique aspect to the game and massively speed up resource acquisition and the collection of units that you tell to return for repair. Having lots of these will aid you greatly. I wish more RTS games had units like these, as they save you a huge amount of time, plus they keep the resources flowing quickly. Beyond those aspects, the gameplay works just as it does in Command & Conquer and other RTS games, so if you get the general flow of how those games work, then it is exactly the same with Dune 2000, just with the unique aspects that I've just pointed out. Overall structure to the game is quite good, with each house's campaign consisting of 14 missions, though several of those act as alternate versions of missions, with some being harder than others, where you would have one of two choices to choose from. Speaking of difficulty, this game is quite challenging, with many of the later missions being extremely challenging and long. If you play this game, just know that going in, that some of the missions will take several hours to complete. Personally, I really love that, but just know that. I will say that some campaigns are harder than others. The Atreides campaign, for example, I found to be the hardest of the three, Harkonnens to be the easiest, and Ordos being somewhere around the middle. On the subject of multiplayer, whilst the original 1993 release did not have multiplayer, Dune 2000 certainly does, as it runs on a modified version of the Command & Conquer engine. I remember playing a little of it at LAN parties back in the 90s. Great stuff from what I can recall. On the subject of bugs and technical issues, oh my god does this game have issues. But it's all to do with running the game on modern systems. Unless you have a retro PC lying around, then your chances of getting this game to run natively on your system will be next to impossible unless you're really lucky. Because this game was not meant to feature on modern systems. Like, it was totally aimed at the old Windows 98, Windows XP era. Thankfully, however, there was a fan source port done for the game called Grunt Mods, through which Dune 2000 runs pretty much exactly as it did back on 90 systems. So if you're wanting a one-to-one experience of how it was back in the day, then Grunt Mods is what you want to play this game through. It does still have occasional issues like crashes and refusing to work on occasion, but it is by far the best that is out there for this game, so be sure to check this out if you're interested in playing Dune 2000. As for DLC and expansions, unfortunately Dune 2000 never got any DLC or expansions, which is very unfortunate considering how good the game is. Sequels wise, there was one game released several years later in the form of Emperor Battle for Dune, which was developed by Westwood Studios itself and released in 2001. The major negative, however, is that it, like Dune 2000, does not run at all on modern versions of Windows. And sadly, unlike Dune 2000, there is no fan-made source ports for it. So it is completely unplayable on modern systems, which is a damn shame. I never had a chance to play Emperor back in the day, so can't speak on how good or bad it was, though it appears to go for a more full 3D experience. Overall, Dune 2000 is a fantastic RTS game with top-notch FMV sequences. If you're looking for a fun RTS game that will keep you busy for a solid week or two, then this is the game to check out. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love this game. It is one that I return to every now and then, and I see it as a shining example of how to do a game remake well, as it improves on the original game in every aspect. And that does it for my review of Dune 2000. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos in this series, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and also just check out my channel for further videos and you'll find out what else is available. And with that, this is Iceman of JReviews signing out. Guys, have a good one.